This is the second part of the Service Insight program, Rover Electrics. As with part 1 of the program, you should stop the projector and rerun any section that you have not fully understood. This sign will appear at the end of each section. It is also important that you have your circuit diagram and key at hand. In this part of the program, we will first look at the instrumentation fitted to the rover. We will then discuss some of the special equipment, such as headlamp, wash wipe and air conditioning, which are fitted on some vehicles. Many electrical items provide the driver with valuable information. In part 1, we looked at some of the warning lamps. Now, the instruments. Those we will look at show the fuel level, the battery condition, the oil pressure and the coolant temperature. These instruments are all air-cored. With the exception of the battery condition indicator, which is a voltmeter, they can be tested using this Smith's test unit. If you haven't used it before, carefully study the manufacturer's operating instructions and make sure that you are familiar with its operation. Let us assume that we're going to test the temperature gauge 101. Before connecting the test unit, first check the continuity of the lead connecting the instrument to the battery, shown in red, the lead connecting the instrument to its sender unit, blue, and the earth connection, green. Now test the instrument in situ by substituting the test unit for the sender. With the ignition on, connect the red lead from the test unit to the instrument T terminal. Connect the other lead to the instrument case. Select the appropriate range on the test unit and compare the instrument reading with the figure specified in the instruction book. If the instrument functions correctly when connected to the test unit, but not when connected to its sender unit, the sender unit is faulty and should be replaced. Incidentally, unlike bimetal units, when testing an air-cored instrument, it is important to earth the instrument to the test unit, or correct readings will not be obtained. That completes this first section of the program. You will find further information in the STARVI program, Instrumentation. Electrically operated side windows are fitted as standard on the 3500 and as an option on the 2600. The system comprises the driver's and passenger's control switches 1, a motor unit to operate each window 2, a rear window isolator switch 3, 2 control relays 4, and a thermal circuit breaker 5. The driver's control is by 4 non-latching rocker switches mounted on the center console. Each rear window can also be operated by a similar switch mounted on its door. The window lift mechanism and its motor are built as an assembly, which should not be separated. This assembly must be treated with great respect. The motor is very powerful. The 2 relays, one to control the front windows, the other to control the rear windows, are located behind the passenger's glove box. The driver has a push-push switch which prevents rear window operation by de-energizing the rear window control relay. This prevents tampering by children in the rear seats. This is the window lift circuit. Let us make it easier to understand and see how it operates. When the ignition is switched on, the 2 control relays, yellow, are energized. They supply current, shown in red, to the 6 control switches, green. By depressing any of these 6 control switches, the circuit through the appropriate motor, blue, is completed. The motor rotates and the window is raised or lowered as selected. Internal wiring of the control switches allows reversal of the window lift motors. This is achieved by reversing the polarity of the power supply. Depressing the front of a switch will raise the window. Depressing the rear of the switch will lower the window. The driver's control switches on the left supply current to the rear windows through the closed contacts of the rear passenger's control switches on the right. When the rear window isolator switch, yellow, is open, the rear window control relay, purple, is de-energized and the supply to the rear window circuit is cut. Window over travel is prevented by a mechanical stop on the motor drive plate. If the control button is not released when the stop is reached, a self-resetting thermal switch inside the motor casing will cut the power supply. If the total system becomes overloaded, the thermal circuit breaker, located behind the passenger's glove box, shown here in blue, will trip and power through the contacts of both relays, yellow, will be cut. However, the relays will remain energized. In the event of this happening, the unit must be reset manually by depressing the red button. The system may look complex, but by adopting a methodical approach to troubleshooting, time and effort will be saved. Be warned, larking about can be dangerous. In the event of a total system failure, first check that the supply voltage is reaching the thermal circuit breaker. Then, with the ignition on, check the supply at both relay coils. Now disconnect the thermal circuit breaker output and measure the voltage at the terminal. If the reading is 0, depress the reset button. If the reading remains low or 0, the circuit breaker is faulty and must be replaced. If, however, the voltage is correct, reconnect the output lead, then recheck the voltage. If it has dropped to 0, the circuit breaker has tripped, probably due to a short circuit. This must be found and rectified. If the failure is only partial and both front windows have failed, check the appropriate relay. If both rear windows have failed, first check their control relay, then the isolator switch. The two relays are identical and can be tested by swapping their connecting plugs. If only one window fails to operate, check its control switch and connecting leads before suspecting the motor. If it's a rear window, both control switches must be checked. The motor assembly can be reached by removing the door trim pad. But before removing the motor, ensure that the fault is not mechanical or even icing in cold weather. That completes this section on the electrically operated windows. Rerun the section if you do not fully understand it. You will find more information on the system in the Starvey program Vehicle Electrics 2.